difficulties, and we had to get those resolved. So I want to thank you for your patience, and I want to take a quick minute here and introduce Deb Evanson, who is an master's, well, an MA, an internationally recognized FASD/trauma consultant, master teacher, and behavior specialist with more than 46 years of experience teaching and developing programs for individuals with highly challenging behaviors. She has a unique perspective of one who has spent thousands of hours helping to problem solve solutions for children, adolescents, and adults in schools and communities throughout North America. She is driven by the belief that the human spirit and attitude provides an opportunity for us to solve the real-life extreme challenges facing us today. She believes that by working together to serve people living with the effects of prenatal drug and alcohol exposure today, we are working together toward a future where these disabilities no longer exist. Deb, I want to thank you for being here to share with us today, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I understand we have 11 participants, I think, and thank you for hanging on with us. And we'll just start, and we'll cover what we can today, and then we'll continue next week. So welcome, everyone. I'm Deb Evanson. Let's see if I can make this okay. My family is originally from Norway. My ancestor, my great-grandfather, Nils Evanson, immigrated in 1882 when they were having really tough times in Norway. He immigrated to the US, and our family has been in the US ever since. I grew up in Southern Colorado and moved to Alaska after I saw it in 1986. I think it feels good with my genetics, this Northern life. And I started traveling, I started traveling in 1988 to communities throughout North America, working to solve problems with mostly children at that time starting who had been prenatally exposed to drugs and alcohol. I'm a longtime teacher, and my specialty was behavior disorders before I had started focusing on fetal alcohol, etc. So this is my contact information. We will update you next week on all the details of how to sign up for this course. For if you want university credit, we can give you graduate credit or undergraduate credit. We're working out the details with the CEUs, but we think we're going to be able to offer three CEUs. So all that information, we're not going to take time here. We've got a couple of details to work out. So that will all be shared with you next week. So this is just a happy welcome from Alaska. I opened my front door some time ago when there was a lot less snow than there is now. And this is my very favorite moose at my front door. I leave carrots and apples for him, and he comes by throughout the winter and sometimes sleeps by my front door. So I thought I'd just say a nice warm hello to you all from cold Alaska. Please feel free to put questions in chat, and Nora and Stacy, if you would help us save the chat so we can save any questions that we have so that we can make sure that they're answered here or in the course. So any questions you have, any thoughts you have, please write in chat, and I'll ask Stacy to help me keep track of the chat and make sure I'm answering the questions. So I found through my work that when the latest scientific information plus wisdom of people is combined, new pathways to solve very challenging problems can be discovered. And today I thought I would just kind of tell you the basis of how I came up with this, or how I learned it with other people, and how we're going to be setting up this course. Okay. So we're inviting you to join together. I'm happy to bring the latest scientific information and research and strategies on all the subjects regarding trauma and prenatal exposure to trauma, to drugs, to alcohol, effect on children, adolescents, and adults living with these disabilities. And we're going to have some awesome guest speakers. And we invite you all to share wisdom that you have, the traditions, whatever you feel like sharing, and we will put it all together and see what we come up with, see what kind of a life we can make for our children. These are just some of the subjects we're going to include next week when we're going through the course. I will have the subject by subject, class by class. I'll give you much more broad information. And what I know is that you folks already have the wisdom and the ability to deal with the challenges of caused by prenatal exposure to alcohol and other drugs. And we're going to bring some of that information together and share this, and it's up to you what you do with the information. If you decide you want at the end of the course, because we're going clear through September, that you want to put it together in some form, I'd be happy to help you do that. But the project, anything that we come up with as a group belongs to you. Doesn't belong to me. I'm just the bringer of this information. So I'm going to start by telling a couple of stories. So we made this course, we scheduled it for lunchtime, hoping that this can be a time that you can take a break, bring your lunch, sit and relax while we talk about these subjects. I want to tell you, I don't know if I'll have time to tell all three, but we'll see. I want to tell you the story about how I came up with this and what happened. So we'll go first to the Yukon in Canada and the Northern Lights by a lake that is reflecting the Northern Lights. Okay. By the way, the Northern Lights have been out a lot this year. And they've just had some awesome times when every color in the rainbow is in the sky. It's purple and red, and I know that Nora Bazem has lived up north and knows about the Northern Lights. So it's awesome. Unfortunately, where I live in Homer, Alaska, and I'm right by the ocean, and so it's usually foggy or cloudy. So I go out in the middle of the night to see the Northern Lights, and I see clouds instead. So we're going to the Yukon in northern Canada. First, we're coming to Whitehorse, and then we're going to talk about Carmacks, this community right here. So I had been working in Washington, D.C. I've been working in Washington, D.C. with the U.S. FASD Center for Excellence for a year. It was crazy. I was very happy to escape and come back up north. And on the way back north, as I was driving up the Alaska Highway coming home, people at Whitehorse, Yukon Territory, the Department of Education, the superintendent and special director of schools there asked to meet with me. So I had this nice conversation with them. And I've done work in the Yukon before and have been in all of the remote communities there. And they were telling me about a community where there had a lot of challenges, as we all do. But this community had a lot of real addictions and a lot of issues, okay? And we started talking about this community. They wanted me to write a book, and they wanted me to do some training for teachers. And so they were talking about the community as we got talking about the different communities. They told me about Little Salmon Carmacks First Nation. It's a Northern Shoshone community, and it's beautiful. It's where gold was discovered, sadly, and changed the life of the indigenous people living there many years ago. But it's on the Yukon River. It's an amazing community. And so I went there to spend some time And I stayed in the community and I worked with the teachers. And then I was invited to do some presentations for the community on prenatal exposure to alcohol, how to help people who were prenatally exposed throughout their lifetime. And got to know the people. There's some awesome people there. And the culture is just amazing. The history of the Northern Shoshone people is stunning. And as I spent time there and got to know people, I was invited to attend some planning meetings with the community leaders. They were talking about how they were going to be dealing with some of the challenges in the community. And my job, they invited me to bring information about fetal alcohol and drug effects and the effects of trauma. And so that's all I did. I brought that information and got to listen to their meeting. And as they worked together, I learned some amazing things about the culture. Because we're dealing with some horrible worldwide news today, I want to share this story with you. They took me to a place one day up to this really high mountain. This is not the place. This is just another picture of the area. It's a really high, it was the highest mountain around. And they told me the story about how many years ago, the Northern Shoshone people were going to have a war with people who what now would be called, now it's Alaska, some of the Tlingit Haida people that lived there. And they were spent like a couple of years preparing for this great war. And the day that the war was supposed to begin, the people they were on top of this mountain. And the leaders could see as they looked down where their enemies were gathered, that this war was going to be easy and they were going to slaughter their enemies. So the leaders got together and talked with their people, and they decided to call off the war because it wasn't fair. So they sent a party down to tell the people that were waiting to start the war that there would be no war because it wasn't fair. And that's the amazing things I learned about the culture, and many more. I'm hoping that some people in Russia do the same thing and have that same level of wisdom. But anyway, going on. So they continued to talk about all these ideas, and they came up with this amazing solution. It's stunning. I would never have thought of it. And they talked about as their traditions and the wisdom of how they worked together, that when colonization had happened, when the Europeans came in and colonized the community, the local indigenous people, and all of that horrors happened. When that happened, then they changed how they looked at life. The Little Salmon Karmic's First Nation people before that, everything was connected. They ate together, everything was tribal, it was connected. And when colonization took over, they said they brought this book with them and they learned everything from the book instead of looking around them and seeing what was happening. And everything got divided, like here's school over here, church over here, all these social workers here, everything is divided and not together. And so they came up with this amazing idea. And the idea was to get together and have lunch as a community. This community, and I'm trying to remember, I've forgotten a little bit, but it was about 500 people at that time. And so they decided that I brought information about the kind of nutrition that we needed to help people in recovery and to stay sober and to help the brains of people who'd been prenatally exposed. And they brought information about their traditions and their traditional way of eating. So what they did is they started having lunch together as a community. And they cooked traditional foods. They told the social workers to get out of their offices and come to lunch. They invited all the kids. They took money from their funds from other programs and had lunch. They followed the nutritional requirements that we had talked about. No sugar, no refined products, very traditional foods, very healthy foods. And people just came to lunch 5 days a week. And I remember the school sent a bus and the kids could all go to lunch there. Any teachers could join, any workers in the community could come. And I remember among the non-Indigenous community at the time, like some of the workers were saying, and now we're going to feed people lunch. And they just smiled at them and said, you're invited, come join us. And people just got together for lunch. It was the most ingenious idea I had ever heard of. The elders came, everyone, if a family came, your children came to lunch, they could leave their class and go sit with their parents. It just brought everyone together. The results of that were astonishing. It brought the community together. Many other projects started. There were some awesome changes in the recovery and people, getting help. And anyway, it was awesome. And I'll just end with this because I could talk for 2 hours about what happened next. But that night, that year, for New Year's Eve, they offered dinner, and of course they had singing and dancing and everything at the community center, at the lodge, the traditional lodge. Everyone came, they served dinner, and they served breakfast. And they had way more people come to this than showed up at the bar for New Year's Eve. So it was a really exciting thing. I would never have thought of that. The wisdom of people coming together with science ideas and figuring out what to do. So this is these are just pictures. They're not the actual pictures of the lunch. By the way, when they had extra food, they divided the food up. Any kids that were hungry or needed food because they weren't fed at night, they had little baggies and they just divided the extra food up when whoever was hungry wanted to take it home. It was amazing. So I stayed there and I worked for the Fetal Alcohol Syndrome Society of the Yukon, which is an amazing program for adults living with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders or fetal alcohol syndrome. And so I was working with adults. And as I was there, and they got, and this wasn't me, this was the people working there, got 55 folks off the streets, and they're still off the streets. So it's a really good program that just provided support. It was developed by a mother whose child had fetal alcohol syndrome, and as he grew up, she realized adult life is the toughest time. And so anyway, I was there for a year as an interim director doing a project, and as interim director of FASI. And I was exhausted when I came back. I came back to Alaska due to family issues myself that I needed to come home for. But while I was there, I got to see at a really close level how tough early adult life is for somebody who has fetal alcohol syndrome or fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, and how little support in our communities there are, especially for folks that don't know they have it. The rate of suicide is off the charts. The rate of death is off the charts in especially early adult life. It's the toughest time. So school's tough. The school years are tough. The toughest time is early adult life. And when I came back, I was exhausted. And because this program provides ongoing support for individuals with fetal alcohol in a very indigenous way, really, because it's kind of like an auntie. The workers were like an auntie who helped the people in their lives, help structure their lives and help them. We had a lot of, anyway, you can Google it and read about FASI. It's a wonderful program. So I came back and I was planning to work here to help start a program for adults in Alaska living with fetal alcohol. But I got invited to present at Anchorage School Districts. And I taught a class there. And afterwards, the special ed director asked to meet with me, and he said, you know, we have a real issue. We have a lot of kids. I have parents coming to me whose children, birth children, foster children, or adopted children have been prenatally exposed to alcohol and drugs. And they're falling through the cracks of our school system. And we need some help. Are you interested in helping? And I said, yeah, you bet, if you want to do something real. I said, here's the secret. The research field, the scientific field, has figured out how to help a child who was born prenatally exposed to alcohol and drugs, and often also has a history of big trauma as well. Research has figured out how to help them grow to be healthy, successful adults. The field knows what to do, but our systems don't know it. Our educational system doesn't have this information. As a system, individual people might. Our social service system doesn't have it. Our judicial system for sure doesn't have it. I said, if you want to do something real, I will bump everything else on my plate and put Anchorage School District first. If you want someone to do a couple of short talks on fetal alcohol, I'll give you some names of some really good speakers. And he smiled at me and he said, I'm going to retire in a couple of years. I don't think the school district will fire me. So let's go for it. So this is what we did. And I'm going to skip through this pretty fast. By the way, Anchorage School District is one of the largest districts in the United States, and it's one of the very most culturally diverse districts in the United States. So I talked with parents, I listened to teachers, listened to parents, and I took 2 weeks and observed throughout this giant district. And then I came back with a plan. And our goal was to increase the capacity of the school district staff to work successfully with identified and non-identified students who exhibit the learning and behavior characteristics of children who were prenatally exposed to alcohol and or other drugs throughout all grade levels and all programs. So I'm going to skip through some of this so we just decided to bring extensive information to as many people as possible through the districts. We did programs, we named it How to Work with Children with Maladaptive Behavior. We did programs for custodians. We did programs for the board. We did trainings for all the teachers, for the school psychologists, for all the teachers' aides. We just brought information to everyone and waited to see if they wanted to come up with any projects, okay? And of course, specific concern was always children who now qualify as having behavior disorders, who get services in schools for behavior disorders. Many of those children are children who were not identified as having been prenatally exposed. And the techniques that we use don't work for that population. So we worked a lot with that. We got together, we'd formed an FASD committee, and we just got people together to talk. Basically, come have lunch once a month and let's talk. And we started talking about, I brought information, they talked about problems having to do, with a lot of these kids that were challenges. And they came up with some amazing ideas. We developed a think tank and they just got together and talked. And these are their ideas. So I'm just telling 2 of them. There's lots more. We have lots of success stories. During that period of time, we developed a parent support group. It's a fun thing. But they came up, they developed a brochure with basic information that went to every school in the district. So anytime a new parent came to enroll their child, they had the opportunity to take home this brochure. And we wanted to bring talking about prenatal alcohol exposure. And when I say that, I'm also talking about prenatal exposure to meth and other drugs. So when bringing that out of the closet, taking away the shame and stigma and just dealing with it. Teachers drink too. Teachers have kids with fetal alcohol too. This is a subject that affects everybody. Okay, so that's what we did. And we had so much fun. The committee then developed a video. This group of teachers came together with this idea and developed a video called 8 Magic Keys. You can find it on YouTube, and I will show it later in this course. But just some basic techniques that work for individuals who are prenatally exposed. That they published it, and of course it's now being sold by the National Organization for Fetal Alcohol Syndrome, which is now called FASD United. And it's available, it's used all over the world. In fact, some people from Alaska, a judge from Alaska went to do some work on fetal alcohol and with some Aboriginal communities in very remote bush Australia, and they found this video being shown to them. So it's being used all over the world. That's from this group of teachers. They did it. I didn't. I just brought information about fetal alcohol. They used their wisdom and their knowledge and came up with this. One last story. Kenai Peninsula School District, we did the same thing. I began with a conversation with the special ed director. I'm looking at our time. Okay. And we came up with the goal of increasing the capacity of the staff in the Kenai Peninsula School District, which is where I live, the area of Alaska I live in. And the same kind of thing. We realize that we know strategies and techniques that work, but our systems don't. We believe in teachers, we believe in parents, in the desire and ability to improve positive outcomes. Our current educational system is based on learning theories, as is our social service system, most of our therapy training, that do not take into account the particular and often puzzling brain-based challenges faced by people who are prenatally exposed. But we believe in the ability of people at the grassroots level to solve problems that when you look at it from a distance, those same problems, they may seem insurmountable. So we just taught people about fetal alcohol and about drug effects and about trauma. And the teachers there, combined with parents and administrators, the superintendent got real involved because they were so excited because we were seeing so many changes in the kids. And so they realized the numbers of people prenatally exposed to alcohol and other drugs are huge, way more than we've thought. In Alaska, we can say at least 5% of all people. And there's places in Alaska, as are in the lower 48, like South, I can't think of the name. There are places in Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan. There's San Diego. That's what I was trying to think of. San Diego, there's a lot of fetal alcohol. They say between 5 and 7% of all people. And there's some places where it's 9% or higher. Okay. And we're not talking Indian country, by the way. This is, so this is everybody, wherever alcohol is drunk. Okay. It affects all of us. The numbers are huge. And of specific concern are students and children who have behavior problems. Their system is not set up for them. Our system is just a straight target, sending them right to jail when they get to be early adults. We can do better than that. In the Kenai School District, they had a surprising outcome. We have other good stories, but I want to share this outcome with you. After we were working there, we've been doing lots of training, lots of things were happening. And again, this doesn't have anything to do with me. All I did was take information. The teachers started expanding what they were doing, and they started making the whole Peninsula district follow a lot of the guidelines and the kinds of supports that would help individuals with fetal alcohol for all people. Anyway, I was talking with a special ed director one day. We were getting ready to do a presentation at a state conference. And he said, I said, well, if I wish that we had kept better data to see if we've actually made a difference. And he got a look on his face and he said, you know what? He said, we keep track every year of how many behavior referrals there are. And these are like crisis behavior referrals that they have throughout the year. This is a big district. And he said, the last time I checked, and forgotten the number, it's 12,500 and something were the number of behavioral referrals. After we'd implemented all these programs and the teachers throughout the district, we're just helping make the environment better for individuals with fetal alcohol and making it for everyone. He went down and checked the outcome. He came back, his face was white. He said, you won't believe it. Our number of behavioral referrals we had this year were 5,300 and something. Now that's a change. So I have total faith in people at a grassroots level working together to have really different outcomes. And that's what I want to share with you today, is that taking the time to learn this information, taking the time to learn about fetal alcohol drug effects, talk about it, hold hands together and figure out solutions, we have really different outcomes. I'm going to share just a couple of them with you, but I could talk for the next 4 hours on more stories. I want to go first to a Klingit community in Alaska, on a remote island, on an island in Southeast Alaska called Hoonah. And 27 years ago, a little boy named Morgan was born there. His mother at that time was late stage alcoholic. His father, they were using alcohol and other drugs. And his parents were both very late stage addicts. And his mother sadly left, and after he was born, and he was left with his father, who did not treat him well. And he had some health problems as an infant, but his life was tough. He had suffered abuse, the trauma that comes with living in a home where there's a lot of addiction and trauma. And a lot of things happened to him. His grandparents tried to rescue him and they could not get custody of him. When he was 11 years old, in a way, he was kind of like homeless. In other words, he had a home to go to, but he didn't want to go there because it wasn't safe for him. He was raging in school. He was headed down that path. At the age of 13, that path we don't want him to go. At the age of 13, his awesome grandparents, Sue and Roy Hempel, were able to get custody of him. His father had a reason to leave Alaska and was able to give custody to his parents. So they set about changing his life. They taught him about his disability. They got him the diagnosis. He has full fetal alcohol syndrome. He has a whole list of problems, physical problems associated with it. And they also connected him with his culture and started teaching him about the great Tlingit culture and connected him with some elders who taught him the flute, the native flute, and he became very good at it. You can Google him and you can get a CD from. His name is Morgan Fawcett. They also, they taught him about his disability. They fed him the right nutritious food. They helped him with schooling. There's a whole bunch of strategies that they use that all of you have the ability to use those similar strategies, and life got better. This is a picture of Morgan a few years ago. He was an intern in the Obama White House, and this picture is of him in the White House. Some of you know of him because he's quite well known. We call him my nephew, and I absolutely love him and his family. And here he is at the Department of Justice at a presentation playing the flute. We don't have to have the kinds of outcomes that we've been having. While we work on helping prevent more children being born with these disabilities, the way to really work on it is by helping those living with it today. Here's another story. This is a little boy named Marcel Gagnon. He's 71 years old today. So this is a long time ago. He's Dene. His tribe, if I can pronounce it right, his people are Claude Lee Tene. Probably not pronouncing that quite right. In the middle of British Columbia. He was one of 20 children. The first 5 children all died because where their family land was downstream from a sheep farm where they put a lot of pollutants into the water. And the first 5 children in this family died. They were very, very poor. And he has a very rough history growing up, very much trauma. And as he grew up, you can see him, he was a handsome young man. And his family was, this is a picture of Queen Elizabeth who came to visit him. And the reason I'm showing you came to visit that area on one of her trips to Canada. And this is Marcel's mother. That woman gave birth to 20 children. It was a very rough life. When Marcel was 57 years old, he had struggled with addiction. He had been in jail. He had had a really, really rough life. He met, and he was also a very good singer. He met Key Warner, who is a leader in Canada in the Indigenous movement, working with people with fetal alcohol. She formed the village, White Crow Village FASD Society. And she met him and she got to know him and recognized that he had learning and behavior characteristics, cognitive characteristics of someone who had been prenatally exposed to alcohol. So she taught him about it and helped him get a diagnosis. At the age of 57, he got that diagnosis and it changed his life. Because he then finally had strategies, knew where to get help, knew that all the things he'd been blaming himself for were just part of how his brain worked differently. In 2002, Marcel he's been a 2-time, it's happened twice, Juno nominee for music, the Juno Awards in Canada. Was like the Oscars for music in Canada. And and he's been nominated twice. He's very well known, very successful. And he has full fetal alcohol syndrome. He's been an elder in residence, he still is. He has developed a program for inmates where he helps them learn to walk the red road, a sobriety program. He's done amazing things. And just recently, it's almost been a year ago now, he was given an honorary PhD, an honorary doctorate from the university there. Huge success. We can have different outcomes once we learn how to deal. These are just some adults from Canada who are young adults who all have fetal alcohol syndrome. And they are leading the movement in the world to help people. They've done research, they've done an international research project identifying 400 co-occurring disorders, health conditions associated with prenatal exposure to alcohol and other drugs. These people are wonderful leaders. They all have fetal alcohol syndrome. And this person right here, I just have to tell you this, he's a father, and this person, this CJ Lucky right here, about a year ago adopted a baby boy with fetal alcohol syndrome to help him. We can have different outcomes. So now we're supposed to spend about 20 minutes talking about what you want to get from this series. Questions you want answered. I would very much, and Stacy, can we make sure that we save our chat? Because I'm not seeing it. Okay.
Yes, we don't have anything in the chat at this time.
Okay.
I just want to give you a heads up. We've got about, I know we got a late start. And so I think as long as everybody's okay, we can go a few minutes over, but we are at 12:58 right now. So
okay, well, we won't go too over because I as much as I want to talk to you all, I want to respect that I know people are working and stuff. So we're going to do this every week, every Thursday. Bring your lunch. We'll hopefully get started right on time, and we're going to talk about all of these things. So questions you want answered, things you'd like to know. Let's see if you can put some in the chat, or you can always email me. You can send me a text to from my cell phone. I want to make sure that as we have the basics for the course, it's designed, but I want to make sure that we're touching the things you want to discuss. We're going to have some awesome guest speakers. Ethylene, Ironcloud Two Dogs, has agreed to talk to us later. We're going to get Morgan Fawcett and Marcel, and there's some other awesome people that we want to bring in to help, round this information out. And do we have questions? Okay. Everyone's very quiet. Are they still there?
yes, we still have some participants.
Okay.
I just think you presented some amazing information, Deb, and I think everybody's really excited about the webinar series. I know I am. And I know the few times that I've seen you present, I am always learning something new. And it really, like, I'm blown out of the water, and I'm running around telling everybody, guess what I learned, guess what I learned. So it's just, I don't know, you amaze me. And I want to thank you for agreeing to provide us 24 weeks of information.
It is a great honor to me to provide this information to Lakota people. Your history is astonishing. Your strength of the people is beyond words. I don't have the words, and I feel it when I'm there. I can feel it from you here, and it's my great honor to bring you this information. And yeah, I'm the lucky one. I just wish I was there in person and we were all meeting for lunch together instead of me coming from my kitchen in my cabin.
Well, thank you, Deb. Does anybody have any questions or any comments? You can feel free to unmute yourself and have that interaction. You can put it in the chat. You can use the Q&A box. I do, again, want to apologize about the mix-up today, about the technical difficulties we were having and our delay in getting started. That will not happen moving forward.
You know what? I think it's an example of working with individuals with FASD. You set up a program, and then the more we learn about FASD, we always are having to change it and go with the flow. And it's fine. It worked out like it's supposed to. And I look forward to next week. We're going to start next week some really interesting information.
We have a question from someone here. It says, was the survey used to find out how much the community knew about FASD?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know. We should do that. That'd be fun.
I will let everybody know that there's going to be a new link. So I apologize if you've scheduled and already got this on your calendar. I'm going to have to send out a new link, and I'll get that done before next week. So
we're going to have fun. Come next week. we're going to talk about the secret history of FASD through the history of the planet. It did not start in Indian country. I thought I'd tell you that. It started a long time before, and there's proven history of it. So you're gonna learn some interesting stuff, and I really look forward to talking with you all next week. And welcome to send me information with questions, an email with questions, or a text, or a phone call. Okay.
Thank you, Deb, so much.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next week.
Stay safe,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.